The interest rates on investments in a bank decreased from 8.5% per annum to 6% per annum. What is the difference in size of the annual interest on a deposit of $2,000? Alright, so we could work this question in one of two ways. We could either find the difference between the two percentages and calculate the interest using that difference as the percentage, the rate then, so to speak. Or we could calculate the two rates separately. We could calculate the interest based on an interest rate of 8.5%, and then we do the same thing for an interest rate of 6%, and then we minus the two figures and get the actual answer. That will give you the both answers being the same regardless of which method you use. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to work out both methods just to demonstrate that no matter how you do it, you'll get the same answer. Now I just need to make the point here that this question, as it is written here and as I just read it out, doesn't specify whether the interest was simple interest or compound interest. We're going to assume that it's simple interest because that, for CSEC purposes, is usually what they would test in a multiple choice, right? And simple interest is the form of interest that will allow you to actually use the difference between the two rates as a separate rate in and of itself. That is not something to do if you're doing compound interest. So in other words, if for argument's sake, if for the sake of argument you were to get a question like this, exact question, same kind of question, I shouldn't say exact question because if it's compound interest, some of the variables will be a little different. But the general idea, where you change the rate and you have to calculate the difference in the interest, right? In a case like that, you will not have the liberty of just minusing the rates, the respective percentages, and calculating as a separate thing, right? You could only do that if you're using simple interest. And the reason is because simple interest is a kind of linear thing. So if you minus the two rates, you could get a new rate which will be the difference as a separate rate by itself and use that in your calculations. That compound interest is more of an exponential thing, and the rules for the arithmetic when dealing with exponential stuff is totally different to the rules when dealing with linear stuff. Right, so let me just work it out now just to demonstrate what I'm saying. So let me do it the easy way first. So 8.5 minus 6 is 2.5, right? So the simple interest would be principal by rate by time over 100, which would be 2,000 by, and we're using the 2.5% as the rate, right? So 2.5%, remember in a multiple choice you don't have the calculator, so I'm not going to use the calculator in working it out here. Principal by rate, 2.5 is the same thing as 5 over 2 by time. We want the annual interest, so your time is 1 all over 100, which would be, right? Now, in a case like this, you could say 2,000 by 5 by 1 over 2 by 100. So in other words, you put the 5 in numerator on top in the numerator for the whole fraction, and you take the 2 here and put it in the denominator for the whole fraction as well. Now we can start to cancel. 2 into 2, 2, 2 into 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. 2 by 5 is 10. Principal by rate by time over 100. No, that's 20 by 10, sorry. That's what I'm looking at. 20 by 10 is 100, is 1, sorry, 2 into 2, 1. So 10 by 5 is 50. Alright. Right. So 2 into 2 is 1. I'll leave you with 10 here. Right? 2 by 100 is 200. 200 into 2000 is 10. So this here is 10. I wasn't seeing the 0 there, strangely enough. 10 by 5 is 50. So if we say 8.5 minus 6 is 2.5. 2.5 of course is 5 over 2. Then, just to make it clear, 2.5 is equal to 5 over 2. 2 to the 4, 4 plus 1 is 5. We put the 2.5 here as the rate in the regular formula, and we calculate the interest as a single unit. as a single entity. Now if I go on this side and I work out the respective interest for the 8.5 and the 6. So if I say SI is equal to 2000 by 8.5 is 17 over 2 by annual is 1 over 100, that will be 2000 by 17 by 1 over 2 by 100. Alright, so 200 into 2000 is 10. I just kind of quickly work in there. 10 by 17 is 170. And then if I come now and I would do the same thing for 6%, and I say simple interest is equal to principal by rate, which is 6, by time, which is 1 over 100. Alright, now I'll get 100 into 2000 is 100, 2000 is 20. 20 by 6 is 120. Right? Again, I just made it working kind of quick here, but if you need to slow down to go through this, because you wouldn't have the calculator in the exam, then by all means do so. Alright? 20 by 6 is 120. Watch it. 170 minus 120 is equal to 50. So in other words, having seen this video, if you come across a multiple choice question, or even a question in your paper 2, possibly in your paper 3, who knows, where you have to deal with two different percentages and you have to calculate the interest rates, the difference in the interest between the interest work at 1% and the interest work at another percent. You know now that if you're talking simple interest, all you need to do is just minus the two interest rates, and whatever you get there, you use that as one single entity in the regular formula, principal by rate by time. Right? Or if you prefer, then you could work out the entire formula for one rate, and you could work out the entire formula for another rate, and then you minus, and you get the same answer. Alright, so it's up to you. Two options have been presented in this video here. So in this case, the answer is answer B, $50.